Hey, blessings and welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today we're continuing in our study of Numbers, chapters 5 and 6. And there's some really interesting things in here, cool things that I've always thought really neat about different parts of the Bible and seeing this. And we'll get to that in chapter 6. But in chapter 5, I thought it was so cool that God says, when you see these Levitical laws being broken, not intentionally, but we talked the other day about just the infectious skin disease and some of the mildew issues and the discharges. It was really neat seeing those things brought up because I feel like we're informed about that. We're a part of this now because we know exactly what he's talking about. And there's no guesswork here. And when it names those things, we're like, yeah, I know what that means. I know that God had set out this protocol on how to take care of it. And the Israelites were very special because they had God's instruction on how to deal with these things. But the fact that God says, get these things outside the camp and take care of them because I am in your camp. Wow, man, God's with them. I mean, literally, physically, he is in the camp. And he says, you got to take these things outside the camp. And it's for the protection of the Israelites. I mean, if you've got an infectious skin disease, it's infectious. And I mean, you don't want the whole Israelite camp to get it. So you got to send them outside the camp and go through the protocols to get that cure before you can come back in. And it's just such a neat thought that God is in the camp with you. And these rules that he gave them through the book of Leviticus are important, and we see them come into play immediately. In the very next book, man, God says, here they are. Verses 5 and 10 are very much like what we today would consider civil law. When someone takes their neighbor to court because now, I live in the country. I was about to say because a bull ran through their fence and tore up their fence, ate a bunch of their grass or whatnot. But let's say a car accident where you're filing a lawsuit against a company that has a big truck that ran into you, and you're suing them for restitution, and you're trying to get your car paid off and things like that. These are the civil laws and the kinds of things that he's talking about in verses 5 through 10. Jumping down to chapter 6, this is what I wanted to talk to you or to talk about, is the Nazirite vow. And we see the Nazirite vow, we'll see it coming up in Judges, where Samson, his parents kind of take on this Nazirite vow on his behalf. Now here it says it is voluntary, but you have to make the decision. It's not your parents making the decision for you. And we'll go through some of the things as we get into Judges about how Samson, how seriously he took his vow. But there's a place in the New Testament where Paul has taken a vow, and at the end of it he shaves his head, and it's very similar to this, although I don't think the Bible ever spells out that he took a Nazirite vow. But this is a vow where you're vowing to serve God, and it's a vow of separation. Now, separation, we know that is when we try and set ourselves apart, when God sets us apart for his the things that he's ordained for us to do. So he tells Israel to look different from the nations that surround them, so they would be recognizable as God's people. He gives us circumcision and baptism and symbols to make us look different from the world. So there's always this idea and this thought of separation from the world, to look different. And it's not just to look different, to walk around in a clown suit all day. It's to look different because it's recognizable as dedication to the Lord, living for God, living for Christ. So I think this separation is very much about that. It gives a few things of what not to do. Don't let a razor touch your head. In other words, you got to let your hair grow long. Don't go near any dead bodies. Don't eat or drink anything from the grapevine. No grapes, no wine, no fermented drinks. So looking at those restrictions, it would be hard for a law enforcement officer today to take a Nazarite vow, just because we have to come across dead bodies, and then you have to go back and kind of start over. We have to keep a clean cut appearance. We can't let our hair go down past our shoulders and whatever. But the thought or idea of being able to be separate from the world and look different and be recognizable as being in service to God and doing things for His service. I wanted to make a short list of what that would look like, because we don't have to take a Nazarite vow to do these things. So biblically, service to the Lord may not be exactly what you think it is. It is a humbling of yourself. It is feeding the poor. It is helping widows and orphans. It's visiting prisoners and sharing Christ with people who have no hope, which is evangelizing. It's helping the oppressed and the afflicted, help them get out from underneath whatever situation they're in. These things, when you do this to the least of these brothers of mine, you have done it to me. Our service can be carried out every day at work, and a lot of times it is. Uh, so I just thought that was such a really cool thing, that we may not be able to let our hair grow long or avoid dead bodies, but we can take a vow of separation to the Lord and serve Him humbly, doing these things for His people. Uh, just a great law enforcement takeaway. And then, real quick, I love the blessing in Numbers 24 through 27, and I want to read it to you. It says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace." What a cool blessing. You guys be safe. I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to be in Numbers chapter 7.